The role of a professional buyer is wide-ranging, often involving responsibilities for selecting the right suppliers, negotiating price and payment terms, drafting contracts, and managing suppliers' performance. Given the range and nature of activities involved in the role, procurement staff cannot afford to be ignorant of financial tools and skills for critical supplier evaluation and contract award decisions. At the heart of the role is the core activity of spending organizational financial resources, which must be safeguarded against financial misappropriation and mismanagement. Following best practice in financial management is therefore an essential requirement of the role, and this is what this section of the course will now focus on. Generally, procurement involves working with suppliers from different sectors. There are many reasons why professional buyers need to develop their financial skills, and we will look into the main reasons shortly. Without going into too much depth, procurement staff who are equipped with financial management skills can benefit from the advantage of making sound decisions in regards to 1. Selecting suitable suppliers based on financial strengths alongside other non-financial requirements in order to minimize procurement exposure. 2. Understanding the relationship between costs and price, and in particular the cost structure of suppliers and their impact on pricing policy for negotiation. 3. Evaluating the financial impacts of price offers on their own organization using tools such as the total cost of ownership to minimize exposure. 4. Setting financial key performance indicators to monitor and manage contracts post-award stage. We can now examine each point in turn. As a professional buyer, you should be well aware that the pre-qualification questionnaire is a risk management tool designed to filter out unsuitable suppliers and focus on those who are fit to supply your organization with goods and services. As part of the filtering process, you need to assess the financial capability of suppliers in proportion to the correct size for consideration and select those that match up with your minimum standards. Obviously, contracts of small value in monetary terms do not demand rigorous financial checks insofar as the public sector contract legislation is concerned, but this may well be different for private sector buyers who are governed by their own internal policies and systems as approved by their board of directors. Financial evaluation is the process of determining the financial strength of suppliers. You as a procurement officer should be able to conduct what is known as financial viability tests on suppliers' financial statements. This viability test involves using a set of relevant financial ratios such as operating margins, gross profit margins, turnover growth, gearing ratios, work capital ratios, return on equity investments, dividend cover, earnings before interest, tax and amortization, and so on. At the very least, even if you call upon your finance team or accountants to lead and support the financial viability reviews of suppliers, you as a professional buyer ought to understand what the results of the evaluation mean for your own professional effectiveness in decision-making. Financial viability tests assess suppliers' financial robustness in regards to risk management and exposure. It also gives insight into suppliers' capacity to respond to the inherent and emerging risks quickly and appropriately. Each financial ratio used in the evaluation process measures strengths in either resource management efficiency and/or resource capacity to borrow and manage third-party capital invested in the business. These ratios are reflected in profitability performance, cash flow performance, and loan repayment performance. As a buyer conducting viability tests, you will need basic understanding of how financial statements are put together, the objectives of the different types of financial statements, as well as knowledge on how to interpret financial statements. You may ask why you need this knowledge. The simple answer is this: where contracts are to be awarded of a significant monetary value and with high political interest, it is critical for you as the buyer to ensure, in broad terms, the selected suppliers you work with demonstrate healthy financial positions in regards to profitability, working capital, net worth, growth rate and turnover, and returns on investment at the very least. The evaluation process must set out the minimum financial viability requirements for a supplier to be considered fit to supply, as well as the rating level to be allocated as part of the scoring method. So, for instance, a scoring system for financial strength of 0 to 5 should have clear explanation of the financial viability results that will attract 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with 0 being the lowest and 5 being the highest score. As part of this evaluation, you will find that because of the timeline between published audited accounts and the date of evaluating suppliers, it will be necessary to get a more up-to-date report on suppliers' financial performance in the current year before final decisions are taken to award contracts. As a result, where contract size is significant, the supplier should be asked to submit a copy of their financial projections for 3 to 5 years based on the current business plan, as well as their most recent management accounts. The capacity to utilize this resource for decision-making demands understanding of the techniques of business planning, financial planning, and in particular budgeting and budget management skills. You as a procurement officer cannot afford the luxury of ignorance on this subject. Every year, billions are wasted in significant projects that are awarded to suppliers who subsequently failed to deliver due to financial weaknesses that manifested a few years down the line, when in reality such weaknesses could have been identified by the procurement team if only the financial appraisal was conducted effectively from the onset. As a professional buyer, you need to understand that it is your role to mitigate procurement risks and to support end users to apply best judgment when selecting suppliers. Of course, when it comes to utilizing financial statements of suppliers, it is always best to rely more on the audited account with an unqualified report than an unaudited account. There are risks associated with unaudited accounts in that the fraudulent accounting practices may go unnoticed, exposing buying organizations to unmeasured risks. If you already have not done so, the key action step you should take now is to study how financial statements are put together and learn how to evaluate financial statements. Also, you need to learn how budgets are put together and managed for effective use of financial resources. As a buyer, you must know there is a strong relationship between costs and pricing strategy. What it costs to the buying organization is priced to the supplying organization. For suppliers, the price charged for goods and services is a function of production costs, marketing competition, that is, what the market is prepared to pay, as well as other political decisions such as market penetration strategy for business growth. Generally, suppliers want to maximize their price to cover their production costs, as well as marketing and administration costs to generate maximum profit for shareholders' wealth creation. Conversely, buyers generally want to minimize their costs of production, locking contracts in the lowest price spectrum for the highest value they can obtain in terms of quality and quantity. Like suppliers who want to maximize profits, private sector buyers